Hi everyone, welcome to Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast. This podcast is all about farmers markets, how to increase your market business success, and in our current climate, maximize safety while providing people with fresh food. Farmers markets are essential. Whether you're a farmers market manager or a small farmer or food maker selling at farmers markets, you have found just the right podcast. This week, we're chatting with Hannah Fuller of the National Farmers Market Coalition about how guest Instagram programs can amplify your voice. I'm one of your hosts, Bridget Myers. I've spent years as an on-site farmers market manager, and I'm the education coordinator at Farmers Market Pros.
And I'm Kat Fields-White, Director of San Diego Markets, still an active farmers market manager, founder of Farmers Market Pros, and host of the Farmers Market Pros community, and recently, Intense the Farmers Market Conference.
And I'm Justine Marzoni-Mead, Tent Talk producer, marketing director for Farmers Market Pros, and the logistics coordinator for Intense the Farmers Market Conference 2021. We're recording this before the conference.
I was faking it there when I said recently.
Just last week.
But by this time, when you're hearing this,
We'll be napping.
Yes, I'll be sleeping for 5 days.
We'll be in a post-conference coma.
That's right.
It'll be wonderful.
It will have just as wrapped up, and we will have had a good time with Hannah at the conference.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, welcome back to Tent Talk, everyone. Today we're chatting with Hannah Fuller, Communications Associate at Farmers Market Coalition. One of Hannah's projects is the popular Guest Instagram program where markets from throughout the country, take over FMC's account and provide new perspectives. Welcome, Hannah.
Thank you guys so much for having me. This is great.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah,
We love the
glad to
Guest
have you.
Instagram program. I can't wait to dig in a little bit.
I know, we wanted to do it, but
Yes.
we missed the deadline.
I missed the deadline, and
We
I was
did.
like, I don't think I can do that on top of well, I guess you guys do it all year. I'll let you
Yeah,
explain
we
it.
do.
But as a market manager,
next year, you gotta
Next year.
apply. Yeah.
next year
We're
when
gonna
I'm
apply.
just chilling. I was, as a market manager, it sounded really interesting. So, Hannah, do you want to give us a little background on like your history and how you got involved with FMC?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I'm still a youngin', I would say, in the field of farmers markets and really just food systems in general. I graduated from Cornell University in 2019. And I was determined to return to my home state of Oregon afterwards. So I returned to Oregon as an AmeriCorps volunteer. I worked in SNAP education in a rural county in Oregon. And so I was going around the county, going to food pantries and grocery stores, doing food demos and basically showing people how to cook on a budget. And one of my favorite things was going to the farmers market every weekend. It's a small market in the Dalles, Oregon. And I would slice up some vegetables, offer some samples, things like that. And I had a blast. And it was really, really cool to see how farmers markets could be a place to also get really accessible, affordable produce and other local goods. And so I became really passionate about kind of that intersection between food insecurity and food access and local economic growth through farmers markets. So as you guys know, farmers markets are kind of that place. So yeah, I finished up my year with AmeriCorps in the summer. And so when I finished in the summer, I applied for this job with FMC. They were hiring. I got a job in the middle of the pandemic, which felt amazing at the time. And so, yeah, I think this is month 8 or 9 with FMC. So I joined in July as the communications associate, and guest Instagram is one of the things that I get to run. So I've had a blast so far.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So do you know the history of the Guest Instagrammer program in FMC?
I know that it's been going on for a good number of years now. I want to say 3 or 4. And so it's been something that I know that we started it in order to basically bring the voices of farmers market operators more to the forefront of our social media. So something that we have really found to be the strength of the program is that farmers market operators tell their story way better than we ever could. And so it was started as a way to kind of pass on the platform to other folks. So I know that it's been around for 3 or 4 years. We've had some turnover in our staff. So I'm I'm not sure exactly when it was started, but I want to say around 2017.
Yeah, I know it's been going for a while. I feel like, in fact, one of our staffers was against Instagrammer for San Diego markets
Yeah.
on FMC's program a few years ago, and had a lot of fun with it, and it was interesting. It looks a little bit more focused this year. I don't know if you're providing maybe more detailed instructions or kind of more background on the types of stories that you want to see, but I've seen some really interesting guests this year. How long, little nuts and bolts, when somebody signs up as a guest Instagrammer, how many days do they take over your account?
Yeah, so they start on Monday morning. This year, I'm glad that you noticed that, Kat. So this year we kind of do an introduction post every Monday for the new guest Instagrammer. And we decided to do that. So when you scroll through the feed, you'll see there's like a white frame around that first post on Monday. And we just felt like it would provide kind of a marker of each week and each new market starting. So yeah, so they take over on Monday and they get all the way through till Sunday to post. We ask them to post at least once a day, but no more than three. More than three posts a day can get a little spammy. But yeah, so and in most markets we've found it really depends on what day they're operational. So if they're operational on a Wednesday, they might be posting a lot on a Wednesday, but often markets operate on Saturday or Sunday. So we like to make sure that they have the weekend to post a lot and take videos and things like that. Most markets plan ahead. We're trying to get them to plan ahead even more this year than they have in the past. So yeah, part of that this year has been trying to really make the program more of a training opportunity. In the past, markets have given us feedback that they would like a little more training beforehand. And so we are offering a cohort meeting every first Tuesday of every month where the incoming market operators that are going to do the takeover in the coming months are able to come and chat and ask questions and give each other advice. And then we're asking for market operators that have done it the month before to come and share their experiences. And so we're hoping, we've only had 2 meetings so far, but we're hoping that it can continue to be this space where they can learn from each other and it can be more training oriented.
Yeah, I definitely think that must be what it is, because you can definitely see a difference this year. I think when we did it, Catherine did it, and it was like, post this often and use these hashtags and have fun.
Yeah. And I think our organization has grown, so our capacity to offer these kind of more guidance, I would say, has been really great. And one of the only requirements that we have is posting one time about data that markets are collecting. Something that we're always trying to promote at FMC is encouraging markets to collect data. And it can be anything from customer counts to SNAP reimbursements to vendor totals. It really kind of just thinking about that market operator role as a data collection role and how to use data to make decisions year after year. So part of that is asking to post something about data. And some people do it by posting a graph or a data infographic or just posting something in the caption. But we do try to encourage at least that is like our one required post every week.
That's huge. Then it's really, so it's definitely more of an educational program now than it used to be. In addition to, to expanding your reach and all those good things, it sounds like you're really kind of digging in and helping them gain those new habits.
Yeah, and it's fun too, just like looking through it, you can really see just like the personalities of different markets and how varied a farmer's market is. And, sometimes I think that we just, it's hard to not think about our own market when we're thinking about farmers markets. Like, we operate a really big Saturday market. It's a very urban market. It's a very touristy market. And we have certain shoppers and certain types of vendors. And then it's so fun to see how diverse and how different each market is, and just kind of like the things that different markets do and the different communities the markets serve. And it's cool that Farmers Market Coalition kind of has it all in one space. You can scroll through and be like, wow, farmers markets are so different depending where you are.
Yeah, that is exactly the goal. So I'm glad that's coming across too. So one of the things that happens is we get applications from people, from market operators from all over the country. And so our application vetting process is kind of complicated because we want representation from all over the country. So we have markets on the slate this year, from Nevada to Maine to Washington. It's all over. But then also, we don't want it to be something that only big markets with a big marketing team or with a dedicated social media person can do. So we want it to be something that, those small markets in rural areas or a small neighborhood market can really just take on and learn from. And so we try to have a mix. So right now it's the Nashville Farmers Market. As we're recording this, it's the Nashville Farmers Market, which is a big market. But in the future, it'll kind of cycle through to smaller markets, and we hope that it provides that national platform for them as well.
Yeah. So what is something that you think, with your experience with this program, like what makes a great Instagram post? Because we're always trying to get farmers market managers and farmers and vendors to kind of like learn how to utilize social media a little bit better, for people who maybe our main focus is not always like, first of all, anything digital and like marketing. It's like, they have hands in the ground, or they're event coordinators, like what we're doing on site. What's a great thing that those, us farmers market people can post that would make a really great Instagram post in your experience doing this program here?
Yeah. I think that it's kind of a simple answer, but it really comes down to the photo, and a really nice photo is really a game changer, I think. And something that can really capture that spirit of the market is really people, and these people focused posts. And every market has beautiful tomatoes or turnips or whatever, right? Every market has amazing produce and amazing products wherever you are. And there are some special things, right? So I'm thinking about when I lived on the East Coast, there was pawpaws at the market, and that was super cool and super unique. And so those kinds of things are great. But I think as people who work in this field, we know that it's really people that are really exciting. And as a shopper at a market, I'm going there mostly to chat with a farmer and learn about my food and things like that. And that's all about the people. And during COVID, that's something harder, right? We don't want people hanging out and socializing the whole time, but it's the people that really matter. And so I think that we've noticed that our people-centric posts are really the most engaging, because it shows the people behind the market. So for us at FMC, we try to encourage people to do more than just photos of vegetables, but I think it is the same for market operators and markets, and even say you're a farmer running your Instagram account. I think that people follow it because they want to follow you, and they want to learn about you and what's going into their food, and all the energy that you as an individual are putting in. So I think that photos of people are really great. And then the quality of the photo is really important. And that can be really hard as a busy market operator. You can't just like run around with your nice camera the whole time. It might be raining, or there's 6 crises that you have to deal with in the background, or something like that. And so something that we've been trying to think about is how we can help markets get better photos. It's not something that we all really think about, but it is, especially in this age of digital marketing, photos really make all the difference. And so your phone is actually a very nice camera. Most photos taken on especially a nicer smartphone are pretty nice. And then also we've been thinking about how can we help markets get these nicer photos, perhaps by reaching out to photographers in their community and potentially asking for like a volunteer photographer to come and take photos. So maybe you don't have the money to hire a photographer, but maybe you could reach out to somebody who's really passionate about farmers markets and ask them to volunteer their time a couple hours over the season and take some really nice photos, things like that. And so I think there are ways to really get creative and source some really nice photos to get some really nice posts.
Yeah, that's a really great idea. I know also, here in San Diego, we are in a big city, but we have seen like people that are part of like photo groups that like it's their Saturday thing that they do where they go out and they just take photos of things. Maybe you can find on Facebook like local photographers that just like to do stuff like that, or maybe even like a college course. You could contact like a local community college or university, and students that are doing photo projects be like, hey, you want to come out and take photos of our market or stuff like that. I'm sure there's other creative solutions that for markets that don't have big budgets, to find people that just want to come out. And there are people that do just want to take pretty pictures of tomatoes all day.
Yeah.
True.
Definitely. And definitely before you take a photo of someone, you should definitely ask them, make sure it's okay. There's all of those kinds of things, like try to be kind and generous with people's space and all of that. So I think that's really important as well. But also, exactly like you were saying, reaching out to lots of people, it does take a lot of energy, but I think kind of shifting to understanding that this is a key marketing tool to have photos. It makes everything easier. It makes posters. Everything is easier if you have photos on hand ready to go. And so I think kind of making sure that it's a priority is a really important thing. And the only other thing that I would say is also there are a lot of probably especially in a city market, there are a lot of influencers and people that take photos, and they probably tagged your market in it, and they would probably be totally great with you taking that photo and tagging them in it and posting it as well. And so that's another way too, is just to ask people if it's okay to reuse their photos. And that is the only other thing that I would add to my response about what makes a nice post, is really just tagging everybody. Tag the vendor, tag the photographer. It spreads the love, and people usually reciprocate and send it right back. So yeah, we always encourage folks when they're doing the takeover on our account to tag their own market as much, tag their vendors, tag their community partners that they do the snap match with, whatever it is. Just tag as many people as possible.
Yeah, that really helps with the reach for sure on Instagram. Who are some of your favorite guest Instagrammers that you've had in the program, and some of the best posts that have maybe gotten the best reaction or have created a good conversation in the comments? And then if you have any horror stories, we want to hear them.
Ooh, we like those.
Yeah. It's away from the horror stories. No, I'm kidding. No, I think so. The Long Beach Farmers Market, downtown Long Beach Farmers Market, they take some of the most beautiful photos.
And their jump.
We have ever.
The Long Beach Farmers Market does a jump every week. They have a whole group of vendors and staff people that jump, and they have a different picture each week of them jumping in the market. They're adorable.
Yeah, and so they just they take beautiful photos, and then they also, they clearly have people are excited to be in the photos, by the jump. They definitely are. They're excited about it, and so yeah, they have produced some beautiful photos. We've also, I think some of my favorites have been early in the pandemic. There was the East Lansing. Was it East Lansing? Yeah, I think in Colorado. They had a mask contest, and somebody dressed up like a stuffed chicken with a mask on, and it was just goofy, but it was so fun. And I think people, especially during COVID, these posts that are really showcasing the creativity behind these procedures that some people really hate. So creativity, honestly, people being told which way to walk and down the aisles. And humans sometimes don't like being told what to do, but there have been a lot of, there are a lot of markets that have made some really creative innovations, and they've been able to share those on the guest Instagram when they have their takeover time. So lately, those have been really my favorite. Showcasing how people are getting creative and having fun with this crazy situation we're in. So sharing, infographics that are, beat careful, leave me alone. It's all the puns that we all laugh at that probably other people think are stupid, but we love them. So, so those have been great for sure.
We love the puns.
We love it.
So if you don't want to divulge any horror stories, and if you do want to, we'd love to hear them.
Horror stories. I guess the only times that I've been oh, goodness gracious. No, I think sometimes folks will just post their logo, which I love a logo, but it's not super engaging, and so I think I have found that sometimes it seems like maybe the cropping is hard. So thinking about like what's the ideal ratio on an Instagram post, sometimes it'll be somebody's like half cropped out or something like that. So trying to think about how to format that in advance. And yeah, but I mean, for the most part, people are really great about it. And then, yeah, I mean, I think honestly, right now, what's been hard is some folks will post pictures without masks on, and they have to be really clear that this is pre-COVID, or that they're still following the guidelines in their state or their county or whatever it is. So those are the only times where it can get kind of tense.
Yeah, I was wondering if you have like a protocol, like a moderated post situation on Facebook where you don't have to post, or on a blog where you have to approve posts. Do you have any kind of approval process on Against Instagrammers, or do you watch it and if there's something just really like, oh, okay, there's a lot of people with no masks and they're holding a 2021 newspaper, do you have a way to pull it back?
Yeah, luckily that hasn't happened yet. So that's an example. But
Kat always thinks about worst case scenarios.
I do. It's my job. It's my job.
Yeah, that's good to have somebody like that on your team. No, I think what has been, what I would say is that we definitely have to monitor it. It's not something, we don't approve each post. And maybe in a future year, like I've said, we've had more capacity. Maybe it is something where we ask people to plan ahead and do something, schedule it. But for now, we just kind of check in throughout the day and make sure that things are good. For the most part, I mean, I think nothing is ever so egregious that, our name is going to be tarnished forever or anything like that. But it is something that I think some people could think of it as, oh, I'm just going to plan takeovers for the year, and then I don't need to manage my Instagram for the whole year or something like that. And it's,
but it still takes some management.
Yeah. And so it does take management, and it takes expectations. It's super easy for folks to accidentally toggle over to, when you're about to post on Instagram, you can also post to Facebook or other platforms. And so sometimes we've accidentally had folks tap on that and it gets posted to our other channels. And so that can be confusing. And so, we just definitely have to monitor. But for the most part, everybody in our farmers market community is on the same page about some pretty basic values and basic stuff. And so, in my experience managing it this year, it's been pretty good, pretty smooth.
Yeah.
So on the technical side, do they just post direct to your Instagram, or are you using something like Later or Hootsuite or?
Yeah, you give them a sign in for it, or how does that work?
Yeah. So technicalities. So the Wednesday before their Monday start time, I send them an email as a reminder. Hopefully they haven't forgotten. And yeah. So I'll back up. So at the beginning of the year, we accept applications, and then we create the whole schedule for the year and email folks with the week that they've been assigned. We block off time for a National Farmers Market week when we kind of take our account back and post for a while. And then we go back into another season of takeovers. So sometimes maybe I emailed them this January, but they don't have a takeover till October. So we like to kind of give them some reminders so they don't forget about it. But the Wednesday beforehand, they'll receive an email from me with the password that is going to be their unique password. It's usually something that has to do with their market. So I won't use a specific example, but say it was San Diego, right? We would do San Diego, but maybe make the A an @ and the I an exclamation point. So it's something kind of funky and unique, but it has something to do with their market. So we send it to them, and then we also just remind them of the guidelines and all of that on Wednesday. And so then on Sunday evening, I go in manually and change the password every Sunday. And so that's just part of how it goes. There's no way to automate that process. And then, they log in on their phones, and I stay logged in on my phone as well. So it's easy for me to monitor and make sure that everything's going smoothly, but they'll log in. We use Hootsuite as FMC. We use Hootsuite to schedule things. We've had some issues with another Hootsuite account trying to also post to our Instagram. So, because it's right, like, so it's like, two Hootsuites going to one Instagram doesn't work as well. Usually one Hootsuite can go to multiple Instagrams. But anyways, we love Hootsuite as a tool. It's really fantastic. But we ask that when folks are taking over our account, they just schedule it via their.
Oh, so if they have a Hootsuite, they're trying to like schedule to your.
Yeah, it can just get funky,
sense.
and I bet there's a way to work it out, and we're actually looking into that because so many markets use Hootsuite, and it's an amazing tool, and so it would be great to be able to do that.
Yeah,
Hannah, during the week of the takeover, like, is that market responsible for responding to DMs and responding to comments? That's one thing that we found is like tough about, like, it's easy to schedule on Hootsuite, but then you also have to be engaged during the week. And we get a lot of questions being like, where's this farmer? Or where's this vendor? Or, what's up with this? Or I hate your rules. And there's just a lot to respond to.
I hate your rules messages. Doesn't make any
We get a lot of those.
So how do you manage that with your Instagram takeovers? Because I could see that just being another thing with a market manager being like, I have time to respond to my own social media questions, but I can't do it on a national platform.
Well, and if it's a question about FMC, as a market manager, I wouldn't even be able to answer that. So how do you handle that?
Or perhaps FMC wouldn't want you to.
They would not want me to even try.
Yeah. So you're going exactly where I was about to go. So thank you. So we ask that they leave the messages alone when it comes to the direct messages to FMC, because exactly we will get messages saying my membership expired and I need to do a new credit card or whatever. We get a lot of messages like that on social media. And so my job is to go in there and direct those folks. We do let them post as much as they want on the story. So that is also included in their takeover. They can post on the story if they would like. If you are familiar with Instagram, you know that people respond to stories, and the stories can often end up in the mailbox, and there can be, there's a lot of overlap there. So if somebody's responding to their story or maybe like mentions them because they're doing the takeover, it's definitely a gray area right now. But we ask that for the most part, they leave the messages alone. We tell them we'll be in there, we'll be monitoring them. And then basically, as the coordinator of the program, I just try to remind people that I'm available via the email almost 7 days a week, anytime that they need anything. So if there was somebody saying something in the comments or something like that that they didn't know how to respond to, I'm always kind of lurking, ready to go. So yeah, we haven't had anything crazy so far. We've had some, I would say Instagram is a pretty tame platform for the most part, and people aren't posting anything egregious that people would get, maybe the mask policies that I mentioned earlier, but nothing crazy. Sometimes with the development of the anti-racist toolkit and promoting the work that those consultants are doing that we're supporting at this time, we have had some rude people in the comments of Twitter and Facebook, but that is managed by FMC, so we don't need to worry about a market operator having to deal with that when it's on their clock.
Yeah. Cool. Well, all super helpful to explain how I think that this is such an amazing tool, but it's just kind of like working through the nitty gritty of it that can seem pretty intimidating. So we'd really appreciate you explaining how it's worked for you guys.
Because I think it could be good for markets.
Yeah.
Possibly even for vendors and farmers.
Yeah.
We do have one farmer that's worked with a local sort of influencer that does recipes and things with their stuff, and he's been really successful. His Instagram has grown so much because he's been working with her, and so I think some of the farmers and vendors could find it valuable, but I definitely think that the markets could find it valuable. Maybe if you had a particularly good vendor or farmer at Instagram, letting them take over your account for a few days, that kind of thing.
Or and this is a market association, like if 1 week it's going to be this farmers market's turn, and just kind of sharing the burden of
coming
the
up with
nonstop
content.
social media
content
and expanding your reach, because when you
Yeah.
got against Instagram, or if they're tagging and paying attention, they'll pull their followers
it's
over to
cross-promotional, for
your
sure.
spot too, and vice versa.
I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, I would say it's how we've built a lot of our following too. I mean, we say, oh, this is great for the market operators to get their platform, but it's also great for us. We get followers from all corners of the country. But yes, I know that the Whitaker Community Market in Eugene, Oregon has done takeovers with vendors, and they did some recently this past year. And it was really fascinating. Like they had somebody that makes cards and does printing, and she did the takeover from her studio and showed a video of her making cards and that she sells at the market. And so, with a farmer, that would be like so fascinating to be able to have footage from their farm and then also get to meet them at the market. So yeah, I think it's a really natural fit for a lot of market operators to showcase their vendors.
Yeah, that could be a good
maybe Farmers
crossover.
Market Pros should do that.
We should
Yeah,
totally do
that's
that.
a good idea.
Yeah,
You
goals
can see
for
lots of different
2021,
markets.
post-conference goals.
Post-conference goals.
We're
That's
adding
right.
to the very long
Yeah.
list of post-conference goals.
I know we've had at the Little Lily Mercado at our big market, we have been approached before by like influencers that shop at the market that have asked about doing a takeover. I've never actually like closed a loop on that and had anyone do it. I have had concerns before just because it's like we don't want to show pictures of like dogs, in the market. I mean, right now it's all fenced in, but before it was like, there would be dogs there. So it's like no dogs, like don't show a bunch of plastic bags, like don't show this, like, and don't say this about the market. Like, do you understand that this is all California grown produce? Like, don't try to say, so it just seems like a lot
Got
of
my bananas.
yeah, like I just feel like the way we have to post is we have a long list of like social media protocols. So as a market manager, sometimes it might feel really overwhelming to try to explain like your whole job like to an influencer to make sure that they're not posting anything that would be, come off as not in alignment with how you're posting and how your criteria is. But I think at some point you just kind of gotta go for it and
Hold
let
your
it go.
nose and take the leap, right?
Because,
Relinquish some control.
Yeah, like you're saying how like the photos are like cropped weird, or they're just posting their logo and like things that you would not normally want to post on your page. The benefits outweigh the risks, kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think as a market organization, you have specific things that you care about, and if you can pick the top 10 and communicate those to an influencer that you trust, then that's great. And I think as FMC, we have different things that we care about. And I think we can also, like, if a market is posting certain things, I think from a viewer's perspective, it's very clear that that is from that market's perspective. Like, I think people understand that it's the market's takeover. It might not, just because there's a dog at a market in North Carolina, it doesn't mean that FMC says every market should have dogs. I think people can make that. So I think we've been able to relinquish a little control. But I would say, like, my first month of FMC was during National Farmers Market Week this past year, which was a wild ride, I would say. and there are people, we had some influencers post on their own personal accounts about farmers markets. And then in the comments of those posts, somebody was saying, well, I heard farmers markets don't even have local produce. And I heard that, and it's like, at some point we just have to let it go. And so, as with anything, kind of a choose your battles.
Yeah. Don't get in fights with people on the internet.
Yes.
There's somebody wrong on the internet. I must respond.
Somebody wrong
Which is,
now.
when you're home alone, just reading the comments,
Right?
it's easy to get worked up.
Especially
so,
when you can't leave your house, really.
Yeah.
It's easy to get in fights when you're like, this is what I got to do on a Saturday night.
Yeah. And I guess the only other thing that I would want to mention for folks that were maybe interested in doing this is, so for us, we do interrupt the takeovers sometimes. You might notice that when you're scrolling through our Instagram as well, is we do interrupt and say, hi, this is FMC. Here's our upcoming webinar. Or, we try to only do it maybe once per week or less if possible. We really try to give them the space to go on and tell their story, but we do interrupt it sometimes. And so it might be something that maybe as a market operator, you think about, well, we should only do it for these 4 weeks because that's a lull in our time of the year or something like that. So it's interesting to think about.
Or maybe give them part of the week, but you keep your own platform for like the couple days before the market.
Or do it in a time where you don't have a bunch of alerts that you have to get out, or like really pressing deadlines.
Yeah. Or maybe, you keep the story, but they do the posts or something. Like, there's so many, iterations that you could do. So we especially during the weeks leading up to and after National Farmers Market Week, we don't schedule anybody for those weeks. We have stuff going on year round, so we always have something kind of to sneak in there. But it is something to think about as an organization, because your organization will continue to go on, and Instagram will continue to be a great platform to meet your followers and tell them what's going on with your organization. So it's just something to keep in mind as well.
Yeah, I kind of like to see when you guys pop in the middle of a week when somebody has it. I think that's good because it reminds people of what account this is. Wait, do I follow the Carborough Market?
Yeah, right. And it's definitely, I mean, we had twice as many markets apply as slots that we had this year, which was awesome. Like, that is amazing. And this year we prioritized BIPOC-led markets. And so we were able to really I think, a really wonderful group of markets, and many that have never done it before, small, large, all of that. And I'm excited for next year already, when you guys apply, please. So I mean, that's really amazing. And in some ways, I wish we could just have every week be a takeover, but there are some times when we gotta use our own accounts.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Still my house. You Airbnb folks are fine, but it's still my house.
Wait, how many weeks a year do you guys have takeovers going on?
So right now, I think we have about 36.
Oh, okay. So that's a good number, but still not everything. So you guys have space to make it.
Yeah. And I mean, Kat, your idea of maybe only part of the week, that's a really interesting one. And maybe that's something that we go to later. Like, FMC is posting on Mondays and Tuesdays, and somebody else is posting the other days of the week. We do have some markets that operate on Tuesday, and so we wouldn't want to take their market day away from them. So it does get to be, and every market has so much to share. So we want to give them as much time to do so. So yeah, it's always going to be a trade-off, exactly like you guys were saying, but we've found a rhythm that we like.
Such a great idea. Yeah. And just, for other market managers and vendors and farmers, just a great way to get that content load off of you for at least a week, because we know it's like
a week would be nice.
It's a grind. Yeah. And just kind of expose your followers to, like, here's, like, because you feel so self-promotional all the time. Like, here's my market. Isn't it beautiful? Like, I think it's beautiful, don't you? And so it's nice to have someone else take over and be like, hey, we also really like it and think it's beautiful. Like, here's our pictures. So it seems, just a little mix it up a little bit. So,
yeah. And the one thing, I mean, I will say also one of our favorite benefits is when a market signs up, they sign an agreement that we get to use their photos that they post.
Nice.
So part of the deal is that they post photos and we get to use them later. And so that is really nice for us, because we are not a local organization. We get these photos from markets all across the country, and then we repost them and we tag them, and they don't seem to mind the promotion later. But it is a great way also to get a lot of great photos.
Yeah, get that photo inventory up.
That's a good idea.
For sure.
Well, thank you so much, Hannah. This has been really valuable. I think this is a program that would help a lot of people, and also an entertaining program to point people towards on Instagram, just to follow yours, because it's really fun to see what other markets are doing. As a market operator, it's great to have a variety of markets to see as examples and see what they're up to.
Great. That's the goal. Yeah. So I would just recommend that if there are markets that are interested, stay tuned. Towards the end of this year and the beginning of next year, we'll have the applications open, and we'd love to see everybody apply who's interested. So.
Great. Awesome. We'll see them on there. All right. Well, we'll talk to you soon, Hannah. Thank you so much for talking to us today.
You.
All right. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Farmers markets are all about community, and all of us, operators, farmers, and vendors, keep learning. Connect with people just like you from various parts of the country and share what's happening in your area in the terrific conversations over in our private Facebook group, the Farmers Market Pros Community. Please find us there, answer the 3 qualifying questions, and join the group. You can also message us on Instagram at Farmers Market Pros, or shoot us an email at connect@farmersmarketpros.com. If you're just getting started in farmers markets, check out our Vendor 101 online course at farmersmarketpros.com. Thanks so much for listening to Tent Talk. Please leave us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you access your podcasts, and tell us and others how you're enjoying it. If you are listening to YouTube, please give us a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss the next episode. Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast, is proudly produced by Farmers Market Pros, where passion meets profit. Today's episode was recorded and edited by Justine Marzoni Mead. Original music by David Mead. Thank you so much for listening today, and we'll have another great episode next week. Tune in.